At 2 a.m., a shivering beauty knocked on this single dad's door. What happened next was life-changing. Jake Thompson's sleep was suddenly shattered by the sharp, frantic knock at the door. The wind howled outside like a chorus of lost souls, making his modest house creak with unease. He stumbled to the door, instincts on high alert, unsure if it was merely a figment of his restless dreams. When he swung the door open, he was met with a sight that struck deep into his heart. There stood a shivering young woman, hardly more than a girl, her skin pale as the snow swirling around her. "Mia," she whispered, chattering teeth revealing the weight of her fears. Her gaze bore stories of hardship and longing for safety. Without thinking, Jake stepped aside, his heart racing. "Come in." He couldn't just close the door, something about her vulnerability reached out to him. Inside, his two children, 8-year-old Emily and 6-year-old Noah, stirred awake, faces clouded with confusion. "Dad, who is she?" Emily's whisper cracked the silence, while Noah just clung to his teddy bear, eyes wide. Jake knelt, placing a comforting hand on Emily's shoulder. "It's okay. She needs our help." He wanted to teach them kindness, but would they understand this was more than a mere act of charity? In their modest home, embers of warmth flickered, a stark contrast to the raging cold outside. As Mia shared fragments of her painful story, Jake felt echoes of his own childhood resonate in the air. Abuse had scarred his past, and here was a chance to rewrite that narrative. "Let me just stay until morning," Mia begged, her eyes shimmering with raw emotion. Jake was torn. He felt responsibility swell in his chest. Yet, a creeping doubt haunted him. Would this disrupt the fragile balance he'd established with his children? Before he could answer, a hard knock echoed from the front door. His heart sank as shadows danced in the hallway. The neighbors had come, drawn by the commotion. "Jake!" One called out, skepticism thick in his voice. "What is going on in there?" A sharp breath hitched in Jake's throat. Would they see Mia as nothing more than a blight, a possible threat to their community? "Just the weather," he stammered, but he felt the weight of judgment pressing down, like heavy snow on brittle branches. He ushered Mia into the living room, uncertainty gnawing at him. "We're in this together," he told her quietly, even as his mind raced with solutions. Could he really protect her? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As dawn painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, tensions in the house grew thicker than the morning frost. Noah, clutching his dinosaur toy, glared openly at Mia. "Why did you come here? You might take Dad away from us." Jake's heart ached. This situation felt dangerously precarious. He had to reassure his kids that love wasn't finite, that family could stretch to include those in need. But just as he was about to speak, the doorbell rang again. On the other side, local authorities stood, ready to investigate. Jake's pulse quickened. Here was the moment of truth. He took a deep breath and braced himself, not just for Mia's sake, but for the lessons of compassion he hoped to instill in his children. Would love conquer fear? Could standing up for what was right outshine the prejudice threatening to pull them apart? The air crackled with unresolved potential. As he opened the door, Jake realized that this was only the beginning of their intertwined destinies, a journey into the unknown where bravery and vulnerability would vie for the spotlight against all odds. Would they emerge victorious as a makeshift family or fracture under pressure? Hope swelled in his chest, a quiet promise that they would fight for each other, no matter the storms ahead. As Jake swung open the door, he was met with the steely gazes of two officers, their uniforms crisp against the soft dawnlight. The heavy weight of their presence loomed over him, casting shadows of doubt swirling in his mind. "Good morning, sir," one officer said, voice steady but tinged with authority. "We received a call about a disturbance. Is everything all right in here?" Jake's heart raced, thumping loudly in his chest. He glanced back at the living room. Emily and Noah stood, wide-eyed, tense as string pulled tight. Mia remained in the shadows, a silent plea in her eyes. He felt the urge to protect her swell in an almost primal sense. "We're fine," Jake replied, tightening his grip on the doorframe. "Let me handle this, please," he thought to himself. The officer raised an eyebrow. "Can we come in?" His instincts screamed at him to refuse, but the burgeoning sense of responsibility swept through him, merging with fear. What could he say? That Mia needed help? "Sure," he said at last, stepping back to allow them inside. He could see the officer's eyes roving over the scene. Toys scattered across the floor, the soft glow of the morning light illuminating the small home. I was helping her," he stammered, feeling the need to explain. "She knocked on my door early this morning. She needed shelter." Mia emerged from the shadows, her presence healing yet heavy. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble," she whispered, her voice barely carrying. The deeper implications of her words caught like thorns in the air. Jake could sense the officer's skepticism. "I just needed to get away from what?" the other officer asked, his gaze sharpening. An uncomfortable silence settled like dust around them. Jake felt the weight of responsibility for Mia and an urge to protect the children, still standing with uncertainty in their innocent eyes. She's had a rough time. "I'm just helping her until morning," he said, trying to sound confident but knowing the truth was murkier than that. Emily looked from the officers to Mia, her expression a mix of compassion and confusion. "You can stay with us," she said, her voice sweet but resolute. Emily Jake began, but she held her ground. "Dad, I know she is scared." "Just like when we were scared," Emily said, tears threatening to spill from her eyes at the memory they shared. Jake felt a jagged knot form in his throat. The officers exchanged glances. "We just need to ensure everyone is safe here," one officer said, their tones softening slightly, contrasting the tension thickening the air. "Can you tell us more about your situation?" As Mia began to recount her story, Jake felt the familiar tug of his own past rise within him, a fleeting ghost inseparable from the present. It was a story of disarray, a troubled family, chaos pulling her apart. He found himself taking a step closer to her, the bond forming in their shared discomfort, their shared desire for a home. But as she spoke, doubt swam in the air like fog, threatening to engulf them. The officers listened, their expressions becoming harder to decipher. Jake not only feared for Mia but felt his own shaky footing. Would a revelation about her past lead him to make the wrong decision for his children? Just as she finished, a loud thud echoed from beyond the door. Jake's heart dropped to his stomach. Then the sound came again, more insistent this time. This was no ordinary knock. The officers exchanged urgent glances, and Jake felt every muscle tense. What now? He thought, an ominous feeling settling heavily in the pit of his stomach. As he moved to the door, shadows shifting again, he sighed deeply. This was only the beginning. Would they stand united, or would the chaos he tried to shield them from break through? Would he have the strength to confront what or who was waiting for them outside? His hand hovered over the doorknob, an unsteady resolve coursing through him. Jake's breath paused in his chest as he gripped the doorknob. The weight behind the door grew heavier with each heartbeat. He could sense the officers beside him, tensions bubbling quietly beneath their composed exteriors. The thudding continued, a frantic demand for entry that felt like a countdown. He turned his eyes back to Mia, who stood frozen, her soft features transforming into a mask of fear. What trouble had she run from, and what awaited them on the other side of the door? The ache in his heart pulsed with a need to protect, but what could he protect them from if he didn't even know what or who was waiting outside? "Stay close," he instructed, voice steadying himself as much as her. Emily reached for Noah's hand, squeezing it tightly. The officers shifted stance, preparing and exuding an aura of authority that intertwined with the uncertainty filling the room. With a deep breath, Jake summoned his courage. He turned the knob slowly, eyes darting toward the frame as the door creaked open. Outside, the dawn sky bled into shades of orange and gold, a stark contrast to the darkness threatening to invade his home. The world felt both calm and chaotic beyond the threshold, as if the air itself was holding its breath. "Hello?" Jake called, voice firm but edged with caution. There, at the bottom of the stairs, stood a figure, a man silhouetted against the rising sun. His frame was tall, unkempt hair flaring wildly as a strong breeze swept through. "I'm looking for Mia," he shouted, urgency raw in his tone. Each word sliced through the morning's tranquility. Jake felt Mia flinch beside him, the impact of recognition striking her. The officers surged forward, eyes narrowing as they assessed the situation. "Sir, step back," one officer commanded, voice rising with authority. "No. Wait, please." Mia's desperate cry pierced the tension, a surge of unexpected ferocity in her small frame. "He's not here to hurt me. I know him." Jake's gut twisted. He wanted to believe her, but the fear coursing through him clawed at his resolve. "Mia," he said softly, "are you sure?" "Their family," she insisted, her voice breaking with a mixture of emotion. "He is my brother. I promise. I need to talk to him." The man's eyes softened, and Jake could see a flicker of hope shine through his rough exterior. As if responding to Mia's words, he stepped off the staircase, moving closer, hands open in a gesture of peace. "Mia," I thought he started, his voice trembling, but Jake couldn't let him inside without understanding more. "Why are you here? What do you want?" Jake stepped forward, protective instincts flaring, demanding answers. The look on the man's face varied between desperation and sorrow. "We've lost everything. I had to find you before they did." Confusion clouded Jake's mind, along with concern for his children. What did that even mean? His heart thudded painfully, caught between trust and fear. "Mia?" He urged the girl beside him, searching her face for answers. "What is happening? I'll explain everything. Please, just let him talk," she pleaded, the shadows of their past intertwined with the fresh daylight spilling through the door. Jake hesitated, feeling the turn of fate in the air. Would this lead them down a path of danger? Truth began to slip from his grasp, unraveling threads he thought were securely woven together. "Okay," he said reluctantly, glancing at the officers for guidance. "But if anything feels off, whatever it is, stay back." One officer interjected, maintaining a protective stance. As Mia stepped forward, her brother's expression filled with both relief and something darker. Jake fought the rising tide of dread. Choice loomed, and a storm was brewing just outside the fragile safety of their home. Just then, a cry echoed in the distance, followed by the unmistakable sound of sirens. Jake's heart sank. The encroachment of uncertainty became clearer with every pulse, and he knew they needed answers before their world was turned upside down again. Would confronting the truth help shield them from danger, or would it shatter everything they were trying to protect? Mia took a cautious step forward, her eyes locked on her brother, searching for connection amidst the chaos. The man's face was painted with an urgency Jake couldn't ignore. He was a storm breaking against their sanctuary. The voices from the officers receded into the background. Mia's whispers seemed to drown out everything else. "Jack, please, I need you." "Jack?" Jake's confusion deepened. Now, there were names in history swirling around like a fog. What does he mean, they lost everything? He thought. "Jake, please," Mia repeated, her voice trembling but firm. "He is not a danger. They're after us, both of us." Those words sent a shiver down his spine. "Who is after you?" The anxiety hit him, visceral and raw, but he maintained a steady tone. "The ones who took everything from us," Jack interjected, a tremble breaking his otherwise determined facade. His hands were raised, palms outward, like he was caught in a moment of surrender. "I need to tell you, we can't stay here long." The sirens grew closer, weaving through the air and amplifying the tension. His pulse quickened. "You need to explain yourselves, now. What is going on?" There was fire in his voice, a mixture of protectiveness, anger, and fear for the children still standing behind him. Mia's eyes glistened as if she were about to break. "Jake, it's my fault. I had to leave. There was no other choice." "What do you mean?" he pressed, feeling his efforts to maintain control slipping away. The unity of their small family felt threatened, like a fragile glass teetering on the edge of a table. "I ran away. From what they were doing, Mia confessed, her voice barely above a whisper.
Jack is here to bring me back. But it's not safe. Bring you back?
Jake's heart thudded with each word.
You can't go back where they are. Who are they?
At that moment, Jack stepped forward, moving closer, crossing into the territory Jake had sought to defend.
Just listen to me. We're in danger because Mia has information they want. They'll do anything to silence her. Jake's mind raced.
The love of a brother fighting for his sister was palpable, but it felt foreign bursting through his protective instincts for Mia.
What kind of information?
Mia knows what happened to our family.
The fire, she was there.
They think she might have seen something, Jack explained, desperation clinging to his voice. Jake felt the room swirl around him.
A fire? What fire, and who?
They're part of a crime ring using families as leverage. Jack trailed off, his voice cracking. The revelation weighed heavily, each word pinpointed the fear that threatened every corner of his home. Just as he began to process the impossibility of Jack's words, a loud bang reverberated from outside.
The officers exchanged tense glances, muscles tense, ready for action. We need to get inside now.
One shouted urgently, prompting a rush toward the doorway, yet Jake held his ground, torn between logic and emotion. Mia turned her eyes pleadingly to him.
You have to trust me, Jake. We can't let them find us. We have to figure this out together. Suddenly, the weight of every choice hung perilously in the air, threatening to collapse on him.
Jack's stormy eyes awaited his response, while Mia's gaze crackled with a mix of fear and fierce loyalty. Jake's heart raced, caught between the past, present, and an uncertain future. He felt the chilling grip of danger that had invaded his home. Behind him, he sensed Emily and Noah shifting, their innocent breaths mixing with the chaos outside.
He needed to protect them, but at what cost? Okay, he finally breathed, feeling his resolve join the storm around them. But we have to stay together. No secrets.
Just as he finished speaking, a chilling scream sliced through the air, echoing down the street as the responses from the sirens painted the scene in dread.
Jake! Mia shouted, tugging at his arm. We have to move, now. They're coming.
An overwhelming urge to act surged through him. Heart pounding, he opened the door wider, ready to confront whatever waited outside. But before he could take a step, a dark figure appeared at the
end of the driveway, an unsettling smile spreading across his face. What's next?
Jake wondered as the world tilted farther into a growing abyss.
Would they be prepared for what was coming?
Jake felt the tension twisting tighter, all eyes focused on the encroaching mystery. The storm had only just begun. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as the figure loomed closer, the night cloaking him in shadows.
The smile sent a chill skittering through the air, as if the darkness were creeping inside.
He couldn't shake the feeling that everything, the urgency in Mia's tone, the fraught look on Jack's face, was spiraling out of control.
Stay back! Jake yelled, stepping protectively in front of Mia.
The way the man moved, gliding through the light spilling from the door, felt predatory. It was as if he already knew the secrets they were guarding, and he wanted them.
Jake, listen! Mia's grip tightened on his arm. Please, we can't let him near.
The man halted just shy of the porch, his smile widening, as if he enjoyed the little game unfolding.
Oh, I won't hurt anyone, not yet, anyway. His voice was smooth, chillingly calm. I'm just here to talk. About what?
Jake shot back, his fists clenched, itching for a fight. But deep down, the fear curling in his belly warned him that this was not a conversation he wanted.
About your sister and the mess she's gotten you all into.
The man took a casual stance, leaning against the railing.
I know all about the fire. And how it connects to our little family reunion here.
Jake glanced at Mia, searching for answers in her wide eyes.
What fire? What do you know?
The claustrophobia of uncertainty squeezed his throat.
Enough! Jack interjected, his voice rising. You need to leave now.
You have no business here. A glint of amusement flickered across the stranger's face.
Oh, but I do. You see, I want what Mia has. And if you cooperate, we can make this smooth and easy.
Mia shook her head violently, panic squeezing the breath from her lungs.
You don't understand. It's not yours to take. An eerie silence fell, broken only by the distant wail of sirens. Jake felt a fierce protective instinct surging.
Get away from her, he said, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands.
Oh, Jake.
The man chuckled, shaking his head.
You really think this is about just Mia, don't you? This is much larger than you can comprehend.
Suddenly, Emily peeked out from behind Jake's leg, her small frame trembling.
Daddy, who is he?
The innocence in her voice cut through the tension like a knife. The man's eyes flickered to Emily, something dark swirling in his gaze.
Just a friend, sweetheart, he said too sweetly.
A friend with a proposal for your brave daddy.
Jake felt the heat of fury rising up, burning through the dread. You stay away from my kids. He snapped, feeling Mia's breath hitch beside him. With a flash, Jack moved into action.
He stepped forward, fists clenched. You're making a mistake here, walking into a place you don't belong.
I advise you leave before this escalates.
The man straightened, a look of irritation crossing his face.
You think you're so clever, don't you? I'm not alone.
He gestured behind him, and Jake's blood ran cold. The sound of shoes crunching on gravel echoed as shadows moved in the depths of the night.
More figures emerged, all seeming to converge at once. They were closing in.
Run, Mia whispered urgently, her eyes wild.
We have to go now.
Panic ignited in Jake as he scanned their backyard, calculating the possible escape routes. Fear twisted like a coiled snake in his gut.
I'm not leaving without you.
Then we fight, Jack growled, determination shining in his eyes. The siblings shared a quick glance, a silent exchange of trust, but before they could act, the leading figure, now a faceless blur, waved a hand dismissively. You have a choice to make, Jake. Join us willingly, or I can assure you it won't end well. The icy chill of his words wrapped around Jake like a fraying rope. His heart raced, thrumming louder in his ears. He had to protect Mia, Emily, and Noah, but he didn't know what they were up against. Choose wisely, the man called out, his grin widening in the pale light as he backed away. With a final glance back toward the encroaching shadows, Jake's mind raced with all the possibilities.
Could they fight? Could they run? Just how deep was this danger rooted?
Jake!
Mia's voice broke through,
tinged with urgency as the figures shifted positions.
What do we do?
In that moment, decisions clawed at him, raw and urgent.
What could he choose that wouldn't endanger his family?
The storm had fully descended now, the reality of their situation looming over them like rain. Jake's heart echoed in time with the thudding footsteps that crept closer. The choices ahead spiraled like the chaotic wind swirling outside.
How much longer could they dodge the dangers lurking in the dark? What would it take to keep them safe?
As he locked eyes with Mia, determination coiling deep in his chest, he knew their fight was only beginning.
Would they be ready for what lay ahead?
Adrenaline surged through Jake as he felt the weight of the moment. He couldn't afford to make the wrong move. The shadows closing in were not just threats, they were dark promises that sent chills down his spine. His heart fought against the rising panic, and he tightened his fists, prepared for whatever came next.
Get inside! Jake shouted, pushing Emily and Mia toward the door.
He took a half step back, eyes darting to Jack, who stood his ground, unwavering.
You too, Jack. This isn't going to end well.
I'm not leaving you here, Jack replied firmly, casting a glance at the approaching figures.
The tension crackled in the air like static, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. Do what he says,
Mia urged, her voice breaking.
Please, just go.
The leading figure chuckled, his voice smooth like silk dipped in venom.
Oh, how touching. But time is not on your side.
In fact, you're already losing it.
Jake couldn't waste another second.
He shoved his family inside, urging Mia to usher Emily to the living room.
Lock the doors,
he commanded, the authority in his voice masking the dread churning in his stomach.
Jake, wait.
Mia cried out, but he was already out the door, muscles tense and ready to face the first wave of the unknown.
You don't have to do this alone. But Jake had heard enough. There was no way he'd let any harm come to the ones he loved. He took a defensive stance, eyes fixed on the advancing figures. He could almost feel the weight of their malice. "What do you want from us?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. The man stepped forward again, his entourage fanning out behind him. "It's simple," he said, leaning slightly forward. "You're in a game you didn't know existed. And your sister has a key piece we need. Hand her over, and let us avoid any unnecessary bloodshed." "Never," Jake shot back, determination igniting a flicker of bravery in the pit of his stomach. "She's not a pawn in your twisted game." "Oh, but Jake, she already is." Like a predator, the man's eyes flicked behind Jake, and he felt a shudder run through him. "Help me!" Mia's desperate gasp echoed from the house, the sound sharper than shattered glass. Jake whipped around, panic surging as he realized the door was still partially ajar. He caught a glimpse of Mia struggling against the grip of a shadowy figure. "Mia!" he screamed, racing back toward her. The man chuckled, eyes gleaming with amusement as chaos descended. "See? You can't protect her or anyone." Jake thundered toward the door, fueled by raw instinct, but as he reached for Mia, the air thickened. Shadows churned around him, an almost suffocating wave that pulled at his resolve. "Let her go." "I'll do whatever you want," he shouted, desperation creeping in despite his earlier bravado. It was the first crack in his armor. "Just don't hurt her." "Jake, no!" Mia cried, her eyes wide, filled with defiance, but Jake could sense the fear brewing beneath. "Too late for that, I'm afraid," the man said, a sly grin working its way across his face. "It's time for you both to understand which way the wind is blowing. The things you have buried are about to surface and the consequences could be catastrophic." Just as despair threatened to claim him, Jake caught a flicker of movement from Jack behind him. He had found a heavy metal object, holding it firmly in his hand. "I won't let them take you, Jake," he yelled, readying himself. The man's laughter echoed in the night like a sinister melody, and it began to fill Jake with even more dread. "You think you're fighting the right battle? This isn't just about Mia, it's about all of you. The real game is just starting, and you may not be ready for the rules." The stakes were higher than they had imagined. Jake's throat felt tight, the air electric with impending danger. They could not only be fighting for Mia but for everything they held dear. With one last glance at each other, Jake and Jack exchanged a look that screamed resolve. They had a choice, fight or flee. But the night was far from over. What game had they unwittingly entered, and how far were they willing to go to protect their family? The shadows deepened, and the real terror was just beginning. Jake's heart raced as the shadows seemed to close in tighter, the weight of the man's words settling like a cold mist. He felt the threat wrap around him like a noose, and each breath grew more laborious. He had to act. "Mia!" he called out again, voice breaking with urgency. The sound echoed against the darkness, feeling futile with each passing second. He gritted his teeth, shaking off the fear that threatened to consume him. "I'm coming!" he yelled, determination flooding his veins. Jack moved beside him, stepping closer to the door. The metal object in his hand reflected a gleam from the porch light, a flicker of hope in the growing dread. "I'll back you up, brother. Let us show them what we're made of." The man outside laughed again, an alarming sound that cut through the night air. "Such bravery!" he teased, his tone mocking. "But you can't win against darkness. You should know that by now." As he spoke, the figure holding Mia drew her closer, obscuring her from view. Jake's heart dropped, and he felt a visceral urge to rush in. But his instincts held him back. He needed a plan. "We need a distraction," he murmured to Jack, eyes scanning the perimeter for anything they could use. "Just give me the word," Jack replied, gripping the metal object tighter, knuckles white. Jake turned his focus to the doorway, where shadows danced ominously. "Hey! Let her go!" he shouted, forcing a wave of courage through his trembling body. She's not part of this. I'm the one you want.
The man raised an eyebrow, his grin widening as he considered Jake's words.
Ah, the noble brother. How very touching. But you still don't get it. This isn't just about your sister, it's about the power she holds. The shadows seemed to thicken, swirling around them, feeding on their anxiety. Jake clenched his fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. You're wrong. You think you can bend us to your will? You don't know who you're dealing with. Mia's muffled voice pierced through the chaos.
Jake, please.
Don't shut up.
The man snapped, anger flashing in his eyes.
Did he fear that Mia's spirit could somehow ignite something in Jake? Let her go. Jack shouted, stepping forward as if to bolster Jake's words.
He raised the metal object, ready to swing, but Jake caught his brother's arm, holding him back.
Wait. Wait for what? Jack snapped, eyes blazing.
Trust me, Jake said, desperate.
We need to draw them out. If we act now, we might catch them off guard.
The man smirked, sensing the discord between the brothers.
Time's running out. Make a choice before I lose my patience. The longer you delay, the worse it will be for her. Just hold on, Mia.
Jake shouted back into the darkness, his voice infused with both terror and hope.
We're coming for you.
At that moment, a loud crash shattered the stillness of the night. Jack had thrown the metal object against the porch railing, sending a jarring reverberation through the air.
What the?
The man began, spinning around, his eyes wide in disbelief.
Now!
Jake roared, charging forward with purpose, adrenaline fueling his every move. Heart pounding, he felt the warmth of adrenaline surge through him, drowning the fear.
This was it. They had to fight. Mia needed him.
They needed to escape this nightmare together, and no matter the odds, Jake was determined to shield his family. But as he lunged towards the threatening man, another dark figure emerged from the shadows, poised to strike. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was the beginning of a dark revelation that neither of them had foreseen. What deep secrets lay beneath the surface, and how far would they really have to go to protect each other?
The game was only just starting.
Jake charged forward, his body moving on pure instinct. The sound of his heartbeat echoed in his ears, drowning out the world around him. The figure holding Mia shifted, his grip tightening, but Jake was fueled by a fierce determination that burned hotter than the fear threatening to encircle him. As he closed the distance, the second dark figure sprang into action, darting in from the side like a shadow given life. Jake barely had time to register the threat before a fist collided with his side, sending him sprawling to the ground. The air whooshed from his lungs, and he tasted gravel.
Get up!
Jack's voice roared from above, aggressive and urgent, but Jake felt momentarily dazed. Gritting his teeth, he pushed himself into a crouch, the cold ground beneath him biting through his jeans. He needed to focus, he couldn't let fear bind him. Of the man taunting them turned to Jack, sneering.
Is this your backup?
Pathetic. But Jack didn't flinch. He was still gripping the metal object, now raised high. Hinging his weight back, Jack swung with all his might, but the man sidestepped, quick as a flash.
The clang of metal hitting wood rang out like a gunshot, reverberating in the night.
It was a stunning reminder of how precarious their situation was. Mia's voice broke through the chaos again, a fragile thread of hope. Jake, please. Her eyes were wide, fear etched onto her pale face. Jake's heart twisted at the sight. With every ounce of strength he could muster, he leaped over the ground and pushed himself forward, throwing himself into the fray once more.
I won't let you hurt her.
He shouted, his voice slicing through the tension. Brave words, the man laughed, his tone dark and menacing. But bravado won't save your sister. The man lunged at Jake, aiming to catch him off guard, but Jake twisted, dodging just in time. He felt the rush of air as their bodies narrowly missed each other. Jack! Jake yelled, urging his brother to support him.
Behind you!
Jack shouted back, and as Jake turned, he was met with a kick that landed squarely in his gut. He fell back to the ground, gasping. Desperation clawed at him.
This couldn't be how it ended. Jake forced his breathing steady, focusing on Mia's face. Her eyes held a flicker of strength, and that small spark ignited something inside him. Rising to his feet again, he took a step closer. "You want power?" he shouted, his voice growing stronger. "You'll have to take it from me." Suddenly, with a reflex forged in love and bravery, Jake threw himself into the fray again. The adrenaline coursing through him propelled him forward. He felt pain, but it was overshadowed by a surge of raw urgency for his sister. In a wild twist of fate, the metallic object swung again, this time striking the man, who stumbled back. But before either brother could celebrate, the second figure closed in, dark and silent. Jake caught a glimpse of the man's face, illuminated briefly by the flickering porchlight. There was something familiar in those eyes, and confusion spiraled through him. Who was this? Then it hit him. The world around him faded, the struggle paused just long enough for that startling recognition to take root. His mind raced, trying to connect the dots. "Mia! Hold on!" Jake yelled, pushing forward with everything he had left. But as the skirmish unfolded around him, shock coursed through Jake. A chilling sense of realization began to settle in. Could it be? What truth stood in the shadows, waiting to be unveiled? The confrontation was escalating, and Jake's heart hammered as the secrets of their past began to unravel in the present. Would they survive this night, or would this revelation destroy everything they fought for? Jake's heart raced as the familiar figure hovered before him, a shadow of history resurfacing in the worst possible moment. Time felt like it shuddered to a stop, and all around him, the chaos became a blur. He was staring into the eyes of someone he never expected to see again. Gone were the years of silence, the ghosts of the past, and they all came rushing back like a freight train. "Mia, stay back!" he shouted without taking his eyes off the stranger. The man braced himself, a dark smirk dancing across his lips. There was something unsettlingly reminiscent about him, stirring up memories Jake had buried deep. He had to push those feelings aside. This was not the moment for a walk down memory lane. "Look at you, Jake," the man said, voice dripping with mockery. "Still playing hero? You've always been the one to cling to a fantasy." "Shut up!" Jake's retort was instinctive, fueled by anger and a desperate need to protect Mia. His gaze flicked to his brother, who was still trying to recover from the earlier swing. Survival hinged on them acting as one. Jack, noting Jake's distraction, charged once more, wielding the metal object like a weapon of righteousness. As he swung, the dark figure anticipated the blow, gracefully spinning to dodge, but Jake's instincts kicked in. He lunged forward, creating a barricade between Mia and the looming danger. "Don't you dare hurt her!" Jake's voice trembled with intensity, echoing through the night air, making it clearer than ever that he would stop at nothing to keep his sister safe. But the man's laughter echoed ominously. "You think it's that simple? Just because you put yourself in the way, it all ends here? This isn't a fairy tale, Jake." With every ounce of strength left in him, Jake pressed onward. In that moment, he wasn't just fighting for Mia. He was fighting for the truth that had haunted their family, for a sense of closure that eluded him. As Jack and Jake moved in tandem, the dark figure began to falter, growing less composed. "You've gotten stronger," he admitted, sneering, but his confidence was wavering. "Together, we're stronger," Jack shot back, determination etched through his features. But just as victory seemed within reach, a flash of movement erupted to Jake's left. A fist collided with his jaw, knocking him sideways. He stumbled, gasping, seeing stars, but his focus never strayed far from Mia, her wide eyes reflecting fear and an unwavering belief in him. He could feel her hope radiating even in this darkest hour. It filled him with a fiery tenacity. He would not let her down. "Mia!" he cried again, urgency slicing through the air. And at that moment, everything clicked. The realization that this was about more than just survival, but about embracing the truth that lay beneath the chaos. "Next time you'll learn not to step into a battle you know nothing about," the man spat, regaining his composure, ready to finish what he started. But Jake felt the surge of adrenaline as something shifted inside him. He began to piece together the fragmented memories that had haunted him for years: his family, the loss, the anger roiling just beneath the surface. Everything was coalescing into a singular moment. He locked eyes with his brother, who was still grappling with the unknown. Jack, it's our fight. Let us end this.
And as he prepared to charge again, he felt a tremor in the ground beneath him. This confrontation was merely a prelude to something deeper, a reckoning more profound than he realized. Would the truth finally raise its head, or would shadows from the past consume them all?
The answer lay just a heartbeat away.
The chaos around Jake reached a crescendo as he faced the dark figure with intensity that matched the swirling storm outside. Jack stood resolutely by his side, and the determination in their shared gaze ignited a flicker of fierce hope. They were not just brothers now, they were warriors fighting for what mattered most. Together, Jake thought defiantly, remembering the love and memories behind every tear they had shed.
No matter the shadows looming, their bond would guide them through. Mia,
he called, pulling her into the forefront of his mind.
We will protect you.
The resolve behind his words pulsed like a heartbeat, pushing him forward. With nimble grace, Jack swung the metallic object again, connecting this time with a powerful thud. The figure staggered, surprise flickering across his face, and Jake seized the moment, charging ahead with the ferocity of a lion. Each step surged with adrenaline as he closed the distance between them, heart thundering with righteous fury.
Enough games!
Jake shouted, anger breaking through his facade of fear. He felt alive, charged and raw, fueled by fierce love and unyielding commitment.
You think you can just invade our lives?
But the figure regained his footing quickly, dark laughter spilling from his lips.
You still don't understand the game you're playing, boy, he sneered, eyes glinting maliciously. It's never just about survival, it's much deeper than that.
And you're all just pawns on my board.
That word ignited something primal in Jake. We're no one's pawns,
he declared, feeling a wave of strength flow through him. In that challenging moment, Jake's past collided with his present. He was no longer the boy haunted by shadows. He was a father fiercely guarding his family, and this was his battle. As if reading his thoughts, Jack thrust forward again, his weapon swinging like a shooting star. Jake surged alongside, ready to face whatever the dark figure would throw at them.
Fight with everything you have,
he shouted to Jack.
For Mia.
For our family. Mia's presence behind them radiated a light that contrasted sharply against their dark opponents. Even as shadows loomed around them, Jake could feel the warmth of their shared connection, a reservoir of strength that welled up within him. Jack gripped Jake's shoulder, eyes flashing.
Together.
He seemed to channel all his strength into that single, potent word, and Jake nodded fiercely. They charged as one, powerful and determined. Jack swung again, and the dark figure grunted, stumbling back. But another shadow emerged from the depths, an eerie semblance of familiarity skimming across Jake's mind. It felt like the echoes of their family history were pulling at him, pushing against the walls of his anger.
Jake! Mia's urgent voice snapped him back. They're trying to divide us. Focus!
The reminder broke through the noise, cutting a clear line in the chaos. This wasn't just a fight for survival, they were fighting for truth, the truth he had avoided for far too long. With a surge, he pushed against the darkness encroaching on their family.
These are my loved ones,
he shouted, defiance thick in his voice. The air around him seemed to vibrate with his declaration.
And I'll break you to protect them.
The figure before him reeled, losing the mask of invincibility.
Jake could see cracks forming, of fear piercing through the bravado, and that empowered him. Tell me about the fire, he demanded, stepping forward, fists clenched tightly. The acknowledgement hung in the air, heavy with secrets.
The man hesitated, uncertainty flickering behind the bravado.
You don't want to know what you saw, he intoned, voice dropping. But I do. You've used fear as a weapon long enough.
Jake exploded, his passion roaring like a wildfire.
What did you do? Each tasking moment pushed the figure backward, exposing vulnerability.
The shadows behind him faltered, glancing at one another, unease creeping into their ranks.
Enough! The man hissed, still attempting to regain control. But Jake was unrelenting.
Every question, every fight they'd engaged in for Mia's sake fueled his
determination.
The truth mattered now more than ever. You'll tell me everything, Jake pressed, gripping the railing firmly like a battered anchor in a storm. Or I will unleash everything I have. One step at a time, he stepped toward the darkness. And with each brave step, the winds of truth began to shift. The weight of his family behind him felt like a gentle breeze guiding him forward, driving the shadows back. "What you buried one tea stay hidden forever," the man finally spat, anger tinging his response. "You want answers? You'll get them. But know this, truths often come with a price." And with that, the tides changed. The group faltered, fear spreading among them like ripples in water. The storm outside seemed to mirror the turmoil as thunder rumbled across the sky. Jake felt that familiar rush of protection rise within him, as if his heart were battle drums booming for everything he cared about. His voice steadied, filled with an unwavering belief. "Whatever it takes, we will find a way." Just then, Mia bolstered them, stepping closer. "I'm not afraid. We stand together." Her voice rang through the echo of chaos, shimmering with courage that seemed to wrap like a blanket around their tight-knit circle. In that urgent moment, transformation struck like lightning. Jake saw not just his own hope but the intertwined courage of his children, their brave spirits merging with his own. Their unyielding resolve formed a shield raising high against the threatening darkness. With a collective roar, Jake and Jack charged forward. They were no longer fragmented souls, they were a united front, rooted in the power of family and love. Together, they would confront the shadows that had haunted them for too long. "Now!" Jake thundered, unleashing everything he had as they pushed back against the darkness, stepping bravely into the eye of the storm. The battle wouldn't be easy, but they were ready. For the first time, standing arm in arm, they felt unstoppable. A sense of belonging filled the air as Jake faced the storm head-on, ready to unravel the truths hidden for too long. No longer just survivors, they had transformed into warriors, ready to reclaim their lives and protect what mattered most. Together they would not falter. Don't wait any longer. Make sure to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now, your support feeds the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this impactful ending. We love hearing from you. And for the ones you care about, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support, and don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of backing our channel through these actions.